Good morning, everyone. You're listening to I Dream of DEGA by Corny G, winner of the DEGA Creative Contest. And we're about to start. We're ready to go straight from Rare Evo. We got our CEO and founder, Carlos Rene, and we got NAP, CEO of IAGONs. Welcome, guys. How are you? How's the event? I'm gonna pass on the mic to Carlos and let you be.
Hey there, freak. No, everything's great, man. Just arrived in Denver yesterday. Already had the chance to meet with the Rabbit. He's also here, so looking forward to a very good weekend. We're also going to be meeting up with several of our partners here at Rare Evo. Cornucopias, Wi-Fi, and other are also here for the event. So it's looking like it's going to be a great next 3 days for us. And also today, excited to have IAGON on board. How's it going, Nav?
Hey, it's going well, thanks. Hi everyone. It's Nav Jeets from IAGON, the CEO, founder. We're doing well. We're just busy with the sprints currently in our test net, and we wish we could be there for Rare Evo. We're going to be there for the Cardano Summit in November
Mm-hmm.
in Dubai. Actually, I was in Denver a couple of weeks ago, my cousin's wedding,
Mm.
but I missed out on Rare Evo just because I had to leave early. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah, you'll be missed. You'll be missed, but no worries. We'll make sure to continuously post and keep you guys updated.
Awesome.
Great, great. So first off, thank you for taking the time for this conversation today, Nav. I know that, as you said, you guys are packed right now with your current releases, so we really do appreciate that. But on our side, we also wanted to introduce this partnership to the community. We want them to get to know you, what you're about, and what drives you. So, on that note, that brings us to like my first question, which is, can you please share the vision for IAGON? Like, why is what is the reason for IAGON to exist?
Yeah, sure. So for IAGON, we are building a cloud storage economy, a decentralized cloud storage economy. It's kind of like Airbnb for storage and compute.
Mm-hmm.
We're matching the end users' needs with, the resource providers. So we're learning the behavior of the resource providers, which is what we do uniquely in terms of performance, availability, trustability, different other factors that are important to the end user, and we match them up with the end user's needs. So that allows us to be compliant as well. So, for example, if we want to be compliant in different, for example, GDPR, the premise is to have data specifically allocated in EU.
Mm-hmm.
So we can allocate the shards or storage specifically to EU resource providers. That allows us to be, compliant in a box, basically.
All right, all right. And what's the difference between that and the current storage solutions, right? Like, I mean, obviously, just from what you said, I can already start to picture some use cases there where you stand out. But for the audience, they might be a little bit less technical. Like, what would be the difference between what you just described and just using Google Drive, or from a centralized perspective, or using, say, IPFS from a decentralized perspective?
Yeah, for what's differentiates IGON is in terms of the compliance part. So
Mm-hmm.
IPFS is not compliant by nature. You can't the data is immutable, meaning that you can't. And for example, in EU, you have the right to be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
As if you have a sensitive information that's stored, if you tell a third party to delete that data, they're kind of by law have to oblige by that.
Mm-hmm.
So by nature, IPFS cannot do that, right? So this is kind of one thing. Also, IPFS is not able to kind of be compliant in a box because we're kind of geo fencing the data in specific area to specific resource providers according to the data regulations in that user's country or a region. So that also helps. We did do it differently in terms of the resource providers. We've been building since 2017, a bit after the early boys, which is Filecoin and Siacoin. So what we did
Mm-hmm.
differently was, we went for a patent instead, which allowed us to kind of protect our technology and let us build in a kind of a pace that we're comfortable with. Obviously we it goes against the grain of what it is in terms of decentralized space right now, but I think there's a lot of copycats, a lot of different solutions that try to do similar things, and that's why we took this stance and this business stance.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually we will get there in terms of adoption and use case, and that way allow us to kind of open source more and more.
Okay, okay, I see. So basically, you're starting off with a patent. I assume you will be providing a license to the node providers, right, or your storage partners in this case, and then you'll go open source.
Yes, correct. So it's a business expanding slowly because a lot of the bigger players do have a lot of capital backing them. They're able to kind of open source maybe not everything, but at least more than what we are beginning with. That allows them to garner adoption quickly because they have the capital to market and go to market quickly.
I see. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it was something like $200 million that were raised by Filecoin, something like that, 200 or 400
Yeah,
million. So, yeah, I mean, they definitely can, take their time in that sense, right?
yeah, exactly.
And okay, so I'm clear with the difference with IPFS, but what would be the difference between, let's say, or what would be kind of like the advantages of compliant centralized solutions, right, versus IGON?
Yeah. Yeah, so for difference between AWS and Google, so there's the centralization difference, obviously, because data leaks happen all the time, and that's the difference between centralized solutions a little bit in terms of not in terms of general security, but in terms of implementation, I think it's much more secure because there's automated and there's no humans involved. Always, when there's humans involved, there's bound to be errors between the implementation of Google or AWS in their business. So that's why these data leaks happen. We can be a bit more secure in that sense, and also it allows. Again, it goes back to compliance. It's a big factor about compliance, and this is one of the biggest issues that are facing in society today, and especially in Europe, where GDPR is a big thing, and in healthcare sector it's a big thing. So it shouldn't be overlooked, the compliance, even in the centralized space. The bigger companies actually pay a lot of fines, and they're actually okay with paying the fines instead of building backwards because their infrastructure is built in a way that it you can't build backwards. It's just the way it is, and it'll be way too costly for them to change it. It's easier for them to pay the fines. So, and this allows kind of Web2 companies as well to kind of have a clear kind of understanding of where they can have a compliance in a box. It's much easier for them. That actually saves cost for their legal and a lot of other things. So it allows us to onboard Web2 customers as well.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So you see kind of like even enterprise clients then integrating this, right? It's not only for the decentralized world.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we have two pilots in the Web2 side already. So we've been in discussion with them for a while, and we've been working with them for a while. So these kind of things are, and one of them is a legal firm, and they have discussed these compliance issues of their clients, and in general the issues of how GDPR is a big kind of thing to tackle, and if you can be compliant by premise, like in a box, in an easy way, it's much easier to onboard end customers and users.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you for providing such a detailed explanation, Nav. My next question is, how did the team for IGON come together? Like, what brought you guys to build this great decentralized compliance solution for storage?
Yeah, great question. So Um, in initial, what the vision was more so from the healthcare sector, actually. So I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
from the healthcare sector myself. So and that's one of the most sensitive information, your personal healthcare records. So my first thoughts were just to store and make private, and also in a secure way store your medical files. And then I did meet Rohit and the lad through LinkedIn as I reaching out in early 2017. So I reached out, and Rohit actually I read one of his papers. He did his thesis back in 2005 in terms of decentralized compute. So it's very relevant to what we're doing today. So when he heard about in his thesis, he concluded that that it's hard to reward the resource providers in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So then we had the token model in 2000, token models, and then easier to reward resource providers. So he actually, when I was talking to him, he was very enthusiastic about it. And so Rohit, just to give a background on Rohit, he is a former director of technology from Expedia. He's currently one of the senior managers in Google. And Alad also is an economics professor. He's a machine learning expert. So all this kind of vision or kind of different expertise that they brought to the table, they brought their vision as well to IAGON, and the vision expanded broadly in terms of they're not just focusing on storage side for medical records specifically, but expanded from that to a kind of a much bigger vision in terms of a broad general decentralized cloud service that is optimized by machine learning.
Wow, wow, that sounds like you have the A players over there.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are heavy hitters, definitely, but these guys are part-time, just to be transparent. We can't afford them. Their salaries are, extraordinary. So, but they are founders of IAGON, and they are giving us input biweekly. We're having biweekly calls with them, and making sure that everything's implemented in the right direction.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I mean, but I've worked with when you work with AAA level quality of players in that sense, their time like is worth, having 100 people full time, of a lower level in that sense, right? It's kind of like they already know the answers in that sense, right? How do we design this component? How do we go about tackling this issue? They already know the answer, right? Versus having perhaps somebody less experienced that has to go and figure it out in that sense.
Experience definitely counts. It definitely is a big factor, and I think that you can't have a single experience, and if you have people on board in a single skill set, you're not going to go anywhere far. I think it's
Hmm.
important that everyone. There's a lot of people that bring a variety of facets or skill sets in different directions. So I think it's important that experience in different directions matters, right? So that allows us to kind of expand a little bit and understand the models and the architecture much better. And coming from different perspectives, like Alad, like Rohit. Forgot to mention Claudio. Claudio is also a very he has a very good background as well. He's a former CTO of Huawei in East Asia, so he's
Hmm.
also working in blockchain architecture as well. Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, very impressive. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Huawei, like
Yeah.
that's as big as you can get in terms of systems architecture.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we know kind of like why you're building IGON to be natively compliant to provide decentralization as well. We know you got the A team there working with you. So can you share with us what's the current state of the product? Like what has been released, what's going to be released in the next few months, and what can we look forward into the future for?
Yeah, so we are like on the test net right now. We have a lot of test net sprints. We're really busy with that. We just announced recently. I think the last update was 220 nodes. More than that now probably. But 220 nodes have already set up on the test net. We have been in discussion with multiple data center storage providers as well, that are interested in kind of providing their resources as well, that have high performance, high availability, great infrastructure as well. In the next coming month, we are looking at our main net in September, and that's pending the security audit that we're planning as well. So that's the next month. After that, we have plans for the ambassador and referral program that we're working on, that will incentivize people for onboarding customers and also end users as well, resource providers and end users.
Hmm.
Next year, we're going to be working on decentralized compute. So right now, the focus is on storage, but next year is the decentralized compute that will play heavily in the gaming industry. That I think that's one of the reasons why we have a lot of synergies with DEGA, because they are focusing on storage in terms of the infrastructure. It's much needed in the gaming industry. Um,
Hmm.
and In general, that's the kind of next few months, and then we have plans. If depending on how the catalyst proposals go, we have two catalyst proposals. If they're approved, we'll have a lot more work to do in terms of the um, reputation model, which is stature, which talks about accountability and in terms of just basically rewarding positive behavior in the ecosystem. And there's also fluxion and a lot of different things. I don't want to go too much into detail, but that's the general premise of it.
All right. Well, first off, I gotta say congratulations. I mean, 200 nodes in testnet. Damn.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a great, we're surprised by how much people are active in the testnet. It's crazy. We were just, I was on a call a couple of days ago. I was on a call and it was with one of a bigger data center provider, and they asked us, "So how much nodes do you have?" Well, on testnet, I said, because the latest number I reached out to our dev team, 178, and they said, "Well, we forgot to update it. It's 200 something." And I was like, "Oh wow, that's crazy! It's really going quickly." It was just not too long ago. It was 150. And after that, it was I think in a week it became 220, and we're excited to see the community really into the project and also participating actively in the testnet.
That's great. I mean, to me, that clearly signals that your message, your brand is resonating with your community, right? Because, IGON, just like DEGA, we're still in terms of, let's say, media outreach, we're relatively small compared to some of the, monsters that we have in the industry, right? And I've even seen companies throw millions of dollars in marketing, and they struggle to get, even 100 notes, right? Because I believe that they're probably not connecting well with people's needs. Perhaps their product is not the right one. So I would say that this is a major validation for IGON right now.
Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely, and then it's definitely needed in the space, and I know people that, and we're glad that that we're finally getting the recognition we think we deserve. We've been working since 2017, so as I said, it's been up and down road for sure, and to finally see kind of the fruition of it, or at least the beginning of what can be, it's a great feeling for sure.
Great, great. And with these nodes right now, out of curiosity, like, do you have mapped out like from what regions are people coming in? Like, do you know if how many are in Europe, in Asia, Latin America?
Yeah. There's we have a map as well. I mean, I don't have that information in front of me right now, but
Hmm.
there's definitely in different regions. So we have, and it's a variety of countries that are all over the world, basically, and in this America region, North America, South America. Um, we have a lot in Europe as well. We have East Asia, Australia. I think there's one in. There's a few in Middle East as well, and I haven't seen the updated map, but maybe there is some in Africa as well. But for now, I just know that the main regions right now where most of the nodes were allocated were Europe, North America, and East Asia.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay, okay, got it. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's important for it to be properly distributed, and I think that for emerging markets, it's definitely something that'll be very attractive. Because we've kind of like we've missed out on so many waves, right, in emerging markets and the cloud among them. So I think that the decentralized cloud, right, which is what we're building towards with
yeah,
all of these technologies, such as yourself and IGON, us and DEGA, and many other of our colleagues. I think that this is something we must not miss out on, right?
yeah,
Um, we need to ride this wave. And
yeah.
before jumping into the partnership, my last question is: what are the biggest challenges you see ahead for IGON, to be them technical, be it commercial? commercial or be it regulatory, what are the biggest challenges that you see ahead for you to be able to fully realize, as you see it, your vision?
Well, both the majority of the work in terms of the compliance and the data regulations, I think we've done a lot of headway work in already on that. I think that that will help us in kind of garnering the adoption. I also talked to Esco recently. He had a great quote. It's not just about adoption; it's about retention as well of the customers, right? So making sure that you have an up to date, most you have a kind of like a solution that you keep your customers there and using the platform. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the I think the biggest problem for us is getting the adoption for us is important, of course, and that's for any blockchain company. And I think the biggest goal for us is getting adoption from the Web2 community as well as the Web3 community. And we really do think that we really believe that because of the compliance factor that we will be onboarding a lot of Web2 companies in the Web3 community. And I think the biggest challenge is to sell that to the Web2 community in terms of why this solution is better than any kind of Web2 solution. So, and I think the compliance in a box lets us go to the selling point a little bit quicker with these companies and enterprises. So it'll be easier to onboard, but it's still a educational factor and making sure that they understand how blockchain works, how this works, a decentralized factor works. If they ask these questions, it's definitely a longer sell point than the Web3 community. So obviously, any blockchain project faces the same issue. It's the biggest challenge is adoption. Scalability is definitely something that we're thinking of, but I think that Cardano has a lot of that thinking or ground covered most of it. And the other part is retention, like Esco mentioned. I think the retention, making sure that you're up to date with the regulations, making sure that you keep your customer base with you is very important. And I think that has to do with a lot of things. So it's not just the features or the information that you're sharing, but that's how you operate as a business, how you conduct yourself on a daily basis. There's a lot of things that they go into that retention part.
All right, indeed. So it sounds like, so first off, let's say regulatory dimension, you're pretty much covered. On the scalability side, you're relying on Cardano and basically what the rest of the community is building out there. And then your main focus, not to say that you're not going to be focused on the other two, but your main focus then seems to be, how to get in front of the Web2 people and how to retain them. Is that
Yes,
correct?
correct. And also not just the Web2, but Web3 community as well, just to try to push that adoption part and retain them. That's the biggest challenge I think that we will face.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, software is it's a brutal competitive world in that sense. Um, and yeah, I think that that's a good segue in terms of the partnership and what we can bring to you guys. Definitely, gaming is going to be a content heavy use case, right? So
Correct.
giving people the capability to be able to integrate IAGON natively when we provide our API and our infrastructure. But before I go into details on my side, could you give the community your perspective of, when we met, when we had our conversation, when you started to uh, meet, let's say, and read about DEGA, what was kind of like on your side that the key points or what attracted you to be a partner with us?
Well, I think that it was one of the community members. So a lot of the things that we do, and in terms of suggestions, in terms of adoption, is a lot of it's mentioned by the community members, and give us a background because we can't keep track of everyone out there in the community, and it's great that the community is letting us know, hey, this would make sense for you guys, and obviously not everything makes sense, but in this situation, I think when we had a look and at the paper and we saw that that you guys were working on basically planned working on infrastructure in terms of storage. So I think that it was kind of a natural fit where IAGON could step in and cover that ground, because I do think that you guys have a lot of services that you guys are providing. So I think that at least covering some basis of the infrastructure part would allow for to focus on different areas that you guys are working on. And gaming is obviously a huge industry, right? So there's a lot around gaming, and infrastructure and is kind of key for any kind of gaming, making sure it's efficient and things like that. So I think it was natural fit for and we reached out to you guys, and I think we had a positive discussion. I talked to you, Carlos, and we had a kind of a good talk, and I think a good understanding of where IAGON could fit in your guys' plans, and how we could help each other move forward in the industry. So I think that there's a lot of synergies here, especially for the gaming. And I think the main thing is that what attracted us was that you guys were working. You guys had a kind of a laid out plan, a very organized plan, and you guys, I think that professionally conduct yourself very well as well.
Thank you for your kind words, sir. Yeah, for the community to know, we were connected in the Ada Streets Bets group, which is like great. Everybody there is awesome, and they keep always making suggestions. Hey guys, have you met this other team? So yeah, it was really organic in that sense, right? And towards what you're mentioning of our synergies in the infrastructure thing, I couldn't agree more, right? I always say this. I keep repeating this constantly. It's like we know we can't do everything, and we don't want to do everything, right?
Yeah.
Our um, our goals are to be able to go to market as soon as possible and to be able to provide the best quality of services, right? And I think that storage is something that is so um, complex in its own right that you need to be able to have your focus 100% on it, right? We can't be doing gaming SDKs and bringing ISPOs to games for crowdfunding and also be working on storage, right? So we want to rely on great partnerships such as IAGON to be able to support that in a very effective way.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and thank you for the professionalism compliment there. On our side, we carry ourselves as best as we can, as professionals. I think that in the industry, there's very few companies that have that kind of like DNA in them. IAGON obviously has it, and on our side, we're also very much excited to work with you. And in our conversation, as you say, I think that we kind of connected very well. We kind of like understood each other's goals, and we're looking forward, man, to bringing as many of the gaming use cases to you as we can.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that for sure. And to drive these adoptions, the APIs, and help the gamers and the people that are building the games, with the infrastructure. It's very exciting for sure.
Thank you. And for the audience, like just to paint them a little bit of a picture, I want to say that because they might still be unclear in terms of how it'll work. So for everybody here that isn't familiar with DEGA, remember on our side, what we want to do is bring the experience that you have with AWS with the internet. We want to bring that to blockchain, right? In the sense that you can provision resources with 1 or 2 clicks. You can have a very easy to use API that allows you to integrate all of the systems. And for example, if somebody action, am I using this type of storage? Is it mutable? Is it immutable? We want to make all of these things readily available to the gaming developers, but without them having to understand each of these underlying complexities, right? So on our side, we'll be adding IAGON as a storage provider. So anybody that wants to create their own digital collections, which may be not only, let's say, 2D images, but also 3D game assets, and other types of content. They could just basically target IAGON through the DEGA SDK, And underneath, we'll make sure to always keep updated and integrated and implement all of the best security practices that IAGON will design so that people can use them in a very simple way, right? And, be a Unity developer, be it an Unreal developer, we want, or a web developer, right? We want them to be able to tap into this power of, built-in compliance and decentralized storage without them even having to go through tutorials to understand it, right? They just know they have that benefit and they can access it very quickly, which goes to tie into kind of like the need for the retention and the access and the easy access to the power that IAGON provides, right? Which was one of the key goals that Nav mentioned right now. So I think on my side, that's kind of like all that I had to ask here for introducing IAGON to the community. If anybody has any questions, do drop them in the comments here in this Twitter space. We're happy to address them. And on your side, Nav, is there something you'd like to add that perhaps I didn't ask, or something that you'd like to get across here?
No, I mean, those were most of the questions I think were addressed, and I think they were covered in terms of what we wanted to talk about. The one thing that we do encourage is, as always, feedback. Without feedback, it's kind of hard to move forward as a project or as a company. I think it's important that community involvement, especially in the blockchain world, is really, really important. And I think that any kind of feedback, any kind of information, and even if it's critical, it does help us understand from your perspective. So it's better to talk rather than to keep those feelings or those maybe those thoughts in the head in your head. Always discuss them, whatever they might be. I think it's anything, all that information does help us in terms of direction.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's a really good point there, right? Like, because sometimes people are like, with communication, even when you dedicate a lot of hard work to it, sometimes things get quote unquote lost in translation, right? So it's important for people to, if they don't understand something, if they have their own doubts, if they want to comment, to do so openly. So it's great that you guys are opening the door for that. Feedback is absolutely critical to be able to build out a great product. Awesome. Well then, I don't see any questions here in the Twitter space comments. So on our side, oh wait, there is a question here. Let me see. This is very interesting to me. Essay, the Relect HVAC repair, dude, is this something I can utilize? I don't know what that means. The DEGA host wants to talk. Is that you, Freak?
Yeah, it is me. It is me. And I do have a question because, okay, I'm loving this as decentralization, storage, and computing with compliance. But also, I'm looking at what Nav. Can I call you Nav?
Yeah, for sure.
What you're doing, it's also you have bonuses or you have like a bump on what you get for going in and using green energy. So my thoughts were going to, in our vision and our goals in DEGA is putting $400 in everyone's hand around the world by giving them the opportunity to create and the tools to do it. And I totally see what you're doing connecting with that vision. So I would love for you to is like, what's the possibility here for people in developing countries to tap into this new economy and live off your passion, your talents, your dreams, and all of this?
You specifically, the question was around the green energy, right? If I understood correctly.
It's actually, that was a parenthesis, but it's actually about the whole vision, because I know you're focused right now on big data storage, but your plans are also to go to the user that have spare storage in their setups. So is that a way that to connect the opportunity to make a living out of doing all these things connected with what Carlos and DEGA are doing with the tools and the creative tools and all those things? So
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's a shared storage economy, as we call it. You know, it's a circular. We're trying to create something that will help not just us grow, but also as a resource provider, help you grow as you gain passive rewards and IG tokens. So we want to reward, of course, the resource providers, and that's in terms of passive income. I'm not sure if that's going to cover your life expenses, but it's definitely something that, for example, if you have idle capacity lying around in for your computer or uh, any kind of device later on, of course, and that will have storage or compute that you can allocate to the network and earn passive revenue or passive rewards. Then you can allocate that to IAGON and earn those rewards, and that's for example, we take a good example of, like, if you're drinking coffee in the morning and your computer sitting idle, it's not using 100% capacity at all times, right? So why not use those extra capacities to earn the passive rewards and help you in terms of your expenses? Maybe not cover your life expenses for sure, but it could be a business opportunity in the long run. We do encourage everyone to participate.
Awesome. Thank you for addressing that. And yeah, I think that, I mean, in my opinion, it's just the fact that it's a decentralized system in and of itself basically opens it up for people around the world to be able to participate, right? Not so much like I can't do that with centralized storage solutions, right? I can't just say, "Hey guys, I want to be part of your storage provisioning system," right? So I think that just being decentralized already makes it like accessible to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it does also provide this maybe to answer the question a little bit more directly in terms of different regions that that the infrastructure is not accessible to. It does allow for them to access that infrastructure in maybe a much cheaper way and much more cost-effective way, because there is a lot of infrastructure lacking in certain regions. This would allow for this.
Hmm. Awesome. I see another question here. It says, DEGA, IGON, I saw a recent partnership with World Mobile. DEGA, how does your API fit in with World Mobile, and how, if AGON will integrate with World Mobile? Okay, so World Mobile, as I believe everybody in this conversation knows, is doing, decentralized telecom provisioning, right? So on their side, they're going to need massive scalability, which is something that we also need at the gaming side, right? Games tend to have at least tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and those who have massive global reach even have millions of transactions per second, right? So this is something that also happens in the telecom world, right? But you have a population of a few, let's say, even a small, relatively quote unquote small population of 1.5 million people in small countries or small cities. Well, that wouldn't be a small city, but in any case, if you're covering that large amount of people, you're gonna have probably tens of thousands of transactions per second, and during certain busy days, you'll probably be reaching the million transactions per second, right? So they also need to be able to scale, right? So we're exploring synergies with them on the technological side, to see where what they are building can be integrated into DEGA. What is DEGA building that can be integrated into their system? We're to be 100% transparent. These are very early conversations on the technological side of things. What is clear is that both World Mobile and DEGA see each other as great partners moving forward, and we will work together as much as we can in each of the synergetic points that we can identify, right? So yeah, basically that's where we're at. As soon as we have more clarity on which are the modules that we'll be integrating, we'll both be sharing that. And obviously, by us integrating IGON to the SDK, it will be one of the storage providers that will be available to World Mobile if they so choose to go that route. Um, but it's all up to them, right? So that's where we are with that. Hope that answered that question. Let's see if there's something else here. I don't believe I see any more questions here. Freak, any other questions you see there?
No, we have no more questions in the chat.
Well, there's one more that says, how do you differ from NewNet? And I'm seeing NewNet provides, it says, global distributed computer power and storage for decentralized network. Do you know that one, Nav? NewNet?
Yeah, I've heard about NewNet. Initially, so it's basically the same answer as we gave earlier in terms of how we differentiate ourselves. I think they're focusing on first on compute, as far as I understand. They're not focusing on storage right now. I'm not. That might be wrong, but they're planning on, I guess, focusing on storage later. So NewNet first started to focus on compute, and later they said they were going to be doing storage as well. But again, the differences are similar to other competitors in the space. So how we differ from them is, learning the performance of the resource providers. That's currently what the patent is based around. It's intelligent, autonomous, smart marketplace. Basically, learning the behaviors in terms of performance, availability, trustability, different factors like green energy, location that are important to the end user. These variables we take into account and match them with the user's needs. So that's the differentiation. That allows us to be also compliant in different regions, for different types of data regulations around the world, and that's a big factor, actually. Compliance is often overlooked.
Great. Thank you. I think that absolutely does clarify that. Well, let me see. Nope, no more questions on this side. All right. Well then, I guess this is it for this space. It's been a true pleasure having you here, Nav, sharing all of this key information about IAGON with us and with our community. We really do appreciate that. Any final words before we close down the space?
Well, thanks for having me, and I appreciate, if you guys have any questions, we're always open in the groups. Contact us and ask away on Twitter or Telegram, Discord. Again, feedback is important as well. And thanks for having us, Carlos and DEGA. And we looking forward to our partnership and seeing it come to life.
Thank you, Nav. Likewise, it's been a true pleasure. I gotta say, it's been a very educating conversation for me personally. So your time is greatly appreciated here. For everybody in the audience, thank you for joining us as well. Remember, we have the DEGA ISPO going on. So if you want to take part and support and be part of the DEGA tribe, this is the best way right now. We have the Cardano stake pools open, and we will be releasing the Polkadot ISPO modules shortly. And looking forward to having everybody join us in this great adventure. Freak, take it away and put the outro music.
Thank you, everyone. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, follow IAGON, follow DEGA. It's like we love to talk to you. We're building this with you, as Carlos said, part of the tribe. And this is us and help us spread the word. And right now, I'm going to leave you and going to say goodbye with the winner song of the DEGA Content Creation Contest. It's called I Dream of DEGA by Corny G. And it's been a pleasure. So see you all tomorrow for Freaky Fridays. We're going to be playing games in our Discord. Let's go have fun. Same time, 2 p.m. UTC. So see you tomorrow. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Nav. This has been really, really, really enlightening.